Hello and welcome back to another video on the Silence and the Fury DLC / update. This video is going to cover the brand new Ogres mechanic as well as a couple of other changes coming in this patch that I think you'll be really excited about. We're talking an entirely new Autoresolve system and what it might mean for Warhammer 3. First of all, of course, the Ogres mechanic. So when you're creating a lot of destruction on the map via doing a lot of battling or raising settlements, the Ogres will appear and give you the option of adding a few of them to your armies. Now this is available for all factions at the moment, but since they are attracted by constantly battling, you'll probably run across them more when you're playing chaotic factions like the Beastmen or the Skaven that thrive on raising and causing as much destruction as possible. Now you simply find where they have spawned, which is normally near to the most recent battle that summoned them, and you walk into the small radius that is marked by this red circle, and then you get given 4 choices. Hire the Head Eaters tribe, which grants you 2 Ogres with dual weapons and 1 Man Eaters with great weapons. Hire the Horned Gut tribe, which grants you 2 Mournfang cavalry. Or hire the Death Belchers tribe, which grants you 2 Ogres and 1 Man Eaters with Ogre pistols. Or you can just leave them be. Now if you pick one of the 3 tribes, they are added to this little icon at the bottom of the army screen that allows you to recruit them instantly, kind of like Regiments of Renown. They are a little bit expensive to recruit, but the upkeep isn't anything ridiculous, so they can be good when you need a decent hit of powerful units quite quickly. Bear in mind, however, that if they fall in battle, the only way to get them back is to pick up more from another camp. Now of course, I know what you're all here for. I'm going to break down the units for you. So first of all, we have the Billy Basic Ogres. They are a high HP pool monstrous infantry that have low armor and relatively low melee stats, but fantastic armor piercing damage and great speed, so when they charge into combat, they tend to make quite an impact. Almost all Ogre units also have the Ogre charge ability, which means when units are braced to absorb a charge, these lads only lose half of that bonus damage. They also all cause fear because they are a little bit spooky to look at, and they are of course all siege attackers that can batter down gates with ease. Now these lads would work great embedded in the melee lines to keep them protected and allow them to do damage by the bucket load. This would mean that whatever infantry surrounding them is absorbing the damage whilst they can output as much as possible. Alternatively, with their great speed, they would work well as a shock infantry that charges around and into the backs of enemies whilst they are engaged in melee. Either one of these options would ensure they get a boatload of damage and pick up a massive number of kills, especially against massive blobs of infantry. Now the other variant of Ogres is the dual weapons. The only difference between this and the base unit is that they lose 4 weapon strength but gain 8 bonus damage versus infantry. You want to use them pretty much the same as you would the other guys, by sending them versus infantry of all kinds pretty much all the time. This way, they'll do a teeny little bit more damage in every swing. Next up, Man-Eaters with great weapons. Somehow even bigger than regular Ogres, with more HP and a much higher leadership. And with an immunity to psychology, they can be very hard to break. They have much improved melee stats and damage and charge bonus, which makes them into the obvious choice if you're looking to output as much damage as possible. Not only this, but they also come with a bonus versus large, so are also excellent at dueling with other monsters, as well as throwing down with the toughest infantry. The use cases are probably the exact same for these guys, except now you can also choose to send them to swarm a large target if it poses more of a threat to the front lines. So either embed them in the front lines versus infantry, or specifically target large targets, or charge around the backs and smash into the back of the front lines. With a unit like this, you really can't go too far wrong. The other variant of Man-Eaters is the Ogre Pistol. They only lose 4 charge bonus and the bonus versus large, and gain pistols with a respectable range and very decent damage. This makes them into a great hybrid unit, and if you got enough of them, they would make a very decent doomstack. They are still fantastic in melee combat, and you'll want to make the most of that ammo before you send them charging in. Since they are using pistols, you'll need to get them on the flanks of the enemies to make sure they can get off clean shots without the risk of friendly fire. Once they've done that, send them to smash into the back of the front lines, or just use them like any other Ogre unit, embed them in the front lines, send them versus large targets, send them into big clumps of infantry. You can't really go too far wrong with these lads. Our final Ogre unit is the Mournfang cavalry, and curiously enough, this is the only unit that doesn't have the Ogre charge ability, which is fair enough since it isn't technically the Ogres doing the charging. They think something large enough to hold them up would also get the same bonus. They are another high HP unit and are also heavily armored, so will take a massive beating before anything can take them out. They have brilliant speed, especially for something so large, and of course come with a healthy dose of charge bonus that will bowl over even the most staunch line of spears. They also have a massive weapon strength and decent melee attack, so don't be afraid to leave them in a little bit once they charge. However, they do have low melee defense, so if they get bogged down and surrounded, they will rapidly start to fall due to a combination of this and their large hitboxes. Using these lads in battle, I would say either get them around the enemy and cycle charge until they break, whilst also taking on any ranged units they bring, or have them embedded in your front lines like the regular Ogres if you prefer less micro, as they will still do a boatload of damage wherever you put them. Now before I move on, you may be wondering why we're getting Ogres now in Game 2. Now first, I was thinking this and it made me worry. The Ogre Kingdoms aren't going to be their own faction if they are implemented in this this way. But I seriously doubt with all the hype around ogres, CA know how much we all want them, so they wouldn't give us this watered down version of a faction and call it a day. I think this is just another mechanic like the Sword of Cain that's here to add a little extra spice to the campaigns, and that the Ogre Kingdoms, when they do come in Game 3, will be their own faction that may share some unit similarities, but will otherwise be a totally independent faction. And my best guess tells me that Ogre Kingdoms may be our pre-order bonus / day 1 DLC. And yes, I know both of these things have problems, but that's an entirely different issue. Pre-order a game if you want. If you aren't confident with it, just wait till release. That's your choice. The reasoning I have behind this is that we all get to use these units now and get excited and enjoy using these powerful units because they genuinely are very good. Ogre Kingdoms gets announced as the pre-order bonus, and we all think, hey, I like ogres. I want a whole faction of these lads. Let me just pre-order. It's a bit of good old-fashioned marketing, but hey, that's just a theory. Warhammer theory. Anyway, moving on to the other major change that's coming with this patch, which is the Autoresolve changes. And if you're anything like me, this is very exciting because I freaking love Autoresolve because I hate fighting battles. It's too big for my small brain. So instead of getting that bar and whipping out the ruler to see who has the advantage, you are now given an actual breakdown of the predicted results, including the predicted casualties and any units you will lose. This is going to be controversial as hell. Some people like me are going to love it, and some people are going to absolutely hate it. Now, I can see both sides of the arguments for liking and disliking this Autoresolve change. One of the most overpowered Autoresolve systems was in Rome 2, where you could tell exactly how the battle was going to turn out and what sorts of casualties you'd be looking at. And yes, while it is kind of overpowered because you can see what the battle's going to be like, so you know if you can Autoresolve, it doesn't change the results of the battle. And even when you hover over Autoresolve, it tells you will have a better odds of winning if you manually fight. So it's purposely giving you a debuff for the convenience of Autoresolving. So I don't really think there's anything overpowered about it. It's just a convenience thing. And if you don't like it, well, you can always just manually fight all your battles anyway. No one's stopping you from doing that. Play exactly how you want to. But for me personally, who enjoys Autoresolve because it saves me a lot of time, this is a fantastic change. So this means you know if you're going to win or lose and what units are going to die in the battle. Now, you would think that this would mean more battles go to Autoresolve, but I've actually found that using this new system, I fought a lot of battles I normally wouldn't to save units I don't want to lose. It also meant that I wasn't using saves as much since I knew exactly how a battle would end before going to trial and error and reload, meant I would manually fight to make sure I got the results I wanted. Now, I believe that this Autoresolve system is something that they have in Warhammer 3, and the reason we're getting it is to test what we think before release, and if it's well received, they'll fully implement it in Game 3. Now, this can be a good or a bad thing. It's a good thing because testing mechanics like this in Game 2 is bringing it up to the same level as Game 3 before they stop development totally. We could get a series of minor updates like this that basically make 2 into Game 3, but without the new factions and map, which would be great for fans that aren't able to get 3 on launch. However, this could be a bad thing, as if they are able to directly pull mechanics from 3 and place them in 2, that suggests that the engine of 3 is the same or very similar to 2, and a lot of problems with 2 can be attributed to the engine and its limitations. Now, full disclaimer, I'm not a game developer, so I could be way off base of this, but it just seems to me that it could be this way, which would be quite worrying. Now, we'll only find out which of these is true in the next couple of months, but CA haven't really given us a reason to doubt them yet, so I'll remain optimistic for now and happily eat my words if I'm wrong. And one final noteworthy thing that's happened in this patch is that the green skin icons that a lot of people were complaining weren't very detailed have actually been redone and totally upgraded, and now they look fantastic and fit in beautifully with the rest of the roster. Absolute props to both the Total War community for calling out CA on this, and also CA for actually responding to it and fixing it so quickly. I mean, quickly is all relative. It's been a year, and they're also developing Warhammer 3 at the same time, so doing something like this that is literally just a complaint from the community is really great. And I believe that is everything that I wanted to cover in this video, so if you did enjoy it at any point, then do be sure to leave it a like. It really does help out the channel so very much. If you want to see more videos like this covering all sorts of things, not just on the Silent and the Fury, but every single thing in Warhammer 2, and of course Warhammer 3 when it releases later this year, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. I'd like to take this time to thank all supporters of the channel, in particular Kobe Said So and Nifty Norm, for their fantastic support at the Unclean Ones tier. I really can't thank you guys enough. One more time, thank you so very much for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.